My all-time favorite game is Broken Sword, The Shadow of the Templars, aka The Circle of Blood. A few weeks ago someone on eBay found a stash of new old stock boxed copies, still in original shrink wrap. I just checked and they still have a few copies, so be quick or miss out. I obviously already have several copies, but I have never played it on a vintage Mac. And the recommended specs for this version is a Power Mac. I have picked a worthy Mac to play the game, but as always there is a small problem. We have already restored it in another video, link in the description, but when I tried to use it later, the cd-rom drive had stopped working. So in today's video we are going to repair the cd-rom drive, fix a broken button on the front panel, and see if we can replace the mechanical hard drive with a compact flash card. This big box suffers from a very common issue. The shrink wrap has continued to shrink and will eventually crush the box inside. So we also need to unbox it to save it. So I bought this Mac a couple of years ago, advertised as a Macintosh display, which it clearly isn't. In fact, it's pretty rare, 275 MHz, 5500. Aside from being a black Mac, the other unusual thing about this machine is that it has a built-in radio and TV tuner. It has a PowerPC 603E with 32K of level 1 cache. This funky board also has 256K of level 2 cache. The original 32 megs of RAM has been upgraded to 64. And I just remembered I need to find a better solution for the battery. It came with this 4GB IDE drive and a 24X SCSI cd-rom drive. I have replaced the hard drive with something more modern, but today I want to try it out with a compact flash card. The front panel can be pulled out by pulling on two tabs underneath here, but these Macs are known to be very fragile. So to avoid putting any stress on those fragile tabs, I'm going to remove the entire front panel instead. And my usual disclaimer, of course, please don't mess around inside CRT displays. The tube inside can be charged with high voltage, even with the cord unplugged. Aside from those 4 screws, we also have 2 screws hidden away underneath the front panel. I'm going to tape the front panel to the tube while I remove the back, so it doesn't fall down on the bench and crack. Now I think we can remove the cover. I don't know if this case is fragile or not, but I'm not going to take any risks. Actually, fixing that broken switch on the front panel is not an easy task, because it's hidden away underneath this metal shield that has been installed with plastic rivets. Well, maybe it can be accessed by pulling on these tabs and removing the small front panel. Well, when I turned the front panel around, something actually fell out. So probably a part of this push button here. If I remember correctly, this drive was pretty difficult to remove actually. I'll try to gently pry it out. I think we used the tool to push it out from behind. Okay, that was not an easy drive to remove. So I had to pull this tab up and then use a long tool and push it out from the other side. Now it's finally loose. A piece of plastic fell off the drive rail, so I think we have at least some brittle parts in this machine. Now let's see if we can fix this drive. I'll start by removing the drive sled. Okay, and this is an Apple branded Matsushita CR508C. It's a standard drive, but it has a custom edge connector at the back here. Actually, it has 2 custom edge connectors. And the rest I think is just a standard Matsushita drive. So let's get that lid off and see what the issue is inside. We have been inside this drive before. So let me see if I can remember. I think it has a hidden tab inside this hole here. Yep, totally does. And then 1 tab on this side. And the 3rd tab inside this hole here. I'm actually not 100% sure, but I think it had like tabs back here too. So we need to pull on these guys. And here it comes, finally. So in the restoration video, we found some really sticky rubberized paint on this plastic wheel. We removed it and the drive actually worked, at least for a while. But then it stopped working. I better remove that front panel to make it a little bit easier to work on the drive. It's generally installed with 2 tabs and then pulled off like this. And now we can remove this part. Okay, so here's the tricky bit with this drive. The gearbox and the motor is installed to the chassis from this side. And then the PCB is soldered directly to the motor. I'll start by adding some fresh solder. This tends to make it a little bit easier to the solder stuff. I also have a couple of screws on the PCB that we need to remove. And like in many Sony drives, Matsushita kindly enough marked them out. So I guess these are somewhat service friendly. Okay, let's gently pry on the PCB and see if it will come off. I'm probably being overly careful, but I hate breaking stuff. I have enough broken electronics already, so I'd rather go slow and not add any broken stuff to the collection. Okay, I think the PCB is loose. So let's check for flat flex cables. There are none. So here's our motor, soldered directly to the PCB. Rather unusual solution. We also have one connector here and a second connector back here that connects to the PCB at the back. So they are probably not going to be fun to reconnect later, but that's a later problem. So let's inspect this board. Well, we immediately see one suspect here, or 11 of them to be specific. Before we continue, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, PCBWay. Aside from making excellent PCBs, as we have seen in many of my videos, they also do CNC machining, 3D printing and injection molding. Perfect for prototyping and vintage computer restorations like this one. This is just a few of the projects we have built on this channel, and there are many more to come. Get an instant quote now for your next projects at PCBWay.com. Thank you PCBWay for supporting this channel. I've got some electrolytic SMD caps, but they have actually not started to leak. I don't see any corrosion on the pads, but we know from experience that these guys go bad. So let me check my stash and see what I've got. Okay, I checked my stash and I think we're okay. There is one cap here that has some really strange markings. It's a 47 micro, but then it says 7G8. Not sure what to make of this, but I guess I'll replace it with a 47 micro 16 volt cap. And here's the full cap list if you need it. So to make this as quick and easy as possible, I'll add some flux to all the pads. This is not necessary, but it will come off quicker. And then I'll use my desoldering tweezers to remove all the caps. Okay, so pretty thick ground plane. So I've been using these for a while now, and I found the best method is to add a blob of solder to the tips before I remove the cap. And that actually makes the desoldering much quicker. Makes a pretty big difference. And as always, I don't lift the cap up. I push it sideways to lower the risk of damaging the pads. Oh, that one was really smelly. Yuck. I skipped ahead here a bit. So let's get that last cap off the board. So quick and easy with the tweezers. One of my favorite toys at the moment. I'll remove the old solder with some wick. And then clean up the flux with a Q-tip. As good as new. I'll clean the rest of the pads off camera. So bad electrolytics is by far the most common fault I've had with cd-rom drives. But I'm surprised that we're not seeing any leakage. 2 of them were really smelly, so I guess that could be a sign of leakage. This guy is a bit taller than the original cap. Let's hope that's not a problem. So I just add a splash of solder to one of the pads. Make sure the polarity is correct. Reflow the solder and place the cap. and then I just solder the other side of the cap. There are some unused pads for electrolytics on this board. That is not uncommon. So I like to take a picture of PCBs before I start removing components, just so I don't have to wonder if I made a mistake. I also always check that the polarity is correctly marked on the PCB before I remove the caps. Next we have the mystery cap with the strange markings. Sometimes it's quite tricky to identify electrolytic SMD caps, so let's hope this will work with a regular 16-volt cap. Okay, I skipped that here, so that was actually the last cap. So I'll do a visual and make sure all the caps are correctly installed before we move on. Well, I actually found a minor mistake. 121 here is actually marked 122 on the board. That's all the mistakes I could find. So no need to wash this clean board. And just clean up the flux on all the pads. We're good to go. Okay, so next we need to figure out how to connect these two connectors. So normally you would connect the flat flex to the PCB first, and then attach the locking tab. It looks like it could be done with this connector at the back, but the connector in the front is somewhere underneath the gearbox here, so that's not really possible. But I noticed something here. This flat flex has been rounded off, probably to make it easier to go in. I realize it's hard to see on camera, but it's not flat. Instead I have cut it to be rounded off like this. So I think I'm going to add some deoxit in both connectors. I don't think we have any corrosion here, but it will help the flat flex to slide in easier into the connector. And then I'll place the PCB on top, making sure to let it go down on the connectors, properly aligned, and kind of hope for the best. I'll gently wiggle the PCB. Well, something snapped into place. I can't see the connectors, so I don't know if they are correctly installed. Okay, while I had the camera off, something snapped into place back here too. So now the PCB sits firmly on the assembly. So I'll reinstall the two screws. I noticed they are both very close to the connectors. That is probably not a coincidence. And next I'll resolder the motor to the PCB. Like so. I'll keep things nice and tidy, since I don't plan to wash this board. Okay, that's basically it. So I think we're ready to test this drive. Actually, we can't test this drive without the lid, because the cd-rom is pushed against this disc here while it's spinning. So we need to do some more assembly. The PCB is held down with the same screws as this lid, so we need to install it too. We are also going to need the two edge connectors. I installed the drive sled to get the drive to the correct height. So that should make it easier to remove if we need to. Well, I'll probably need the motherboard too to turn the machine on. This is the microphone, by the way. It's hanging loose because it's supposed to be installed in the front panel. So I think these machines came with system 7 point something, but from my research 9.1 seems to be the best option. Okay, let's try the eject button. Okay, it came out. Let's try with the CD. It's a pretty noisy drive. The CD spins up. Ah, yes! Success! And it shows up on the desktop. Awesome! Very nice with a reasonably easy fix for once. Compared to the PS2 I tried to fix last week. That damn thing is fighting me all the way. I wonder if it's really supposed to be that noisy. Yeah, it does make a strange noise. I wonder if this is normal. Maybe it needs some grease. Well, it's not obvious where that noise is coming from. So I guess I'll just grease everything. I'm using PTFE for plastic parts, because PTFE is kind of plastics. Regular grease can soften the plastics and make them brittle. But this stuff here should be safe to use. Okay, let's see if that made a difference. No, still making that clicky noise. Let's try with this cog. It's a bit tricky to reach, but I'll add as much as possible. Actually, it is accessible from this side. Okay, let's see if that made a difference. I don't think it did. Well, I don't know. Maybe this noise is normal for this drive. Well, I've got these cogs underneath the tray, so let's grease these too and have a listen. No, we're still getting that clicky noise, but everything is greased now, so I'm gonna have to assume that this is normal. I have a similar drive in a machine, but that machine is in storage, so I can't make a comparison. But when that machine is out, I will of course. But for now, I'm just going to reassemble everything and use it like this. Okay, I looked through my stash and I found this thing here. It's just marked Compact Flash Adapter version 1.1. It has some pin headers for jumpers, and they are set to master. And apparently it already has a 4 gig industrial grade compact flash installed. Let's give this guy a try. So most of my Macs from this era, they all have SCSI drives. But this guy here has both SCSI and IDE. I'll use an adapter to connect to the Molex. Okay, so disk is in the drive and the installer is running. There is unfortunately going to be some flickering because my camera can't sync to the refresh rate the installer is using. Do you want to initialize it? We sure do. We're gonna get 3.7 gigs. That's about the size of the original drive, but maybe I should go with something larger. Well, I found an 8 gig card from Western Digital in my stash, so I'll install it and reboot the machine off camera. Okay, that totally worked. So now we have 7.8 gigs. That is double the original size, so that should be sufficient. I'll switch to Mac OS Extended and rename the drive and initialize the drive. Okay, it seems to be working. So here's our compact flash drive. I'm gonna spare you guys this flickering and do the installation off camera. Okay, now that the installer is done, we can switch to 60 Hz. And my camera can sync to this, so no more flickering. Okay, so the cd-rom drive worked perfectly, and the compact flash card too. Awesome. I just flipped through the manual for this machine, and I noticed something in one of the pictures. This front panel here has a nasty little electrolytic SMD cap, so I'll replace it off camera before we continue. Well, that was an easy fix, and the control panel is connected with a cable long enough so you can pull the control panel out. Well, I did some thinking here, and I really don't want to risk breaking these tabs off. It's not worth it. And these controls are for brightness and volume. That can easily be adjusted in software, so I don't really need them. But they are a bit flimsy, so what we can do, I think, is to align them from the back here and then lock them in position with a piece of tape. And this way they don't look broken anymore. They will probably get misaligned again if I start pushing on them, but I'll try to remember not to. So I think this is the best compromise. And we are now ready for the reassembly. I'll tape that front panel back on again so it doesn't fall down and crack. I'm going to remove the hard drive we installed in the restoration video and use it in a different machine. The compact flash adapter has 2 holes that actually align with the drive sled. I found some tiny screws and nuts in my standoff kit, so I'll see if I can mount it. Actually, I found a better solution and installed 3 standoffs between the PCB and the drive sled. That standoff kit is super handy. Actually, there is one more upgrade we need to do, because as I have been working on the machine here, I noticed but it's really noisy. Despite having a fan controller, it's too noisy to enjoy my favorite adventure game. So let's just quickly swap that fan. I have already done a complete disassembly in the restoration video, so I skipped ahead here. But I basically had to disconnect and tilt out the power supply to get access to the fan installed underneath the tube. The fan is actually installed with rubber mounts, and it has a temp sensor, so it is controlled, and yet it's really noisy. And inside here we have an NMB branded 12-volt brushless fan. I don't think it's worn out, because this machine had very little soot inside, so I guess it's just a noisy little bugger. And apparently I'm extremely lucky today. Guess what the only size fan I had in my stash? A 92mm, and that's exactly what we need for this machine. By pushing on these locking pins, I was able to pull the housing off the Noctua fan. I found some GST connectors in my stash, so no need to reuse the original housing. And then I'm going to install the new housing on the Noctua fan, and it locks perfectly into position here. We only need the black and the yellow wire, so I'll snip these two guys off. And now we can reinstall the fan and the temp sensor. And hopefully this machine will now be nice and quiet, and I can enjoy some vintage adventure gaming. And it's finally time to put the lid back on. Okay, finally time for some unboxing. So this game came out back in 1996. Circle of Blood, or Broken Sword, The Shadow of the Templars, depending on market. It originally came out for PC Mac and the original PlayStation. That is actually how I played it the first time. Rented copy on a borrowed PlayStation. I guess I fell in love with this game, because I'm still playing it 29 years later, and I still enjoy it. The box has a sticker here, informing us that this is a classy, entertaining adventure, according to Computer Gaming World, who gave it 4 stars. And according to PC Gamer, it's a thrilling blend of quality puzzling, sumptuous graphics and intelligent storyline. I totally agree. And according to Buzz, it has dazzling animations. The guys who made this game call themselves Revolution Software, and the game was published by Virgin. I mentioned the system requirements before, and the recommended specs are Power Mac with 16 megs of RAM, 155 meg hard drive, 4x cd-rom drive, and OS 7.5 or higher, and 256 colors. And at the back of the box we got a preview of the graphics inside. And that's one of the 3 things that makes this game so great. All the hand-painted graphics, together with Barrington Filiong's music, gives this game an awesome look and feel. And on top of that, it also has a really good story. An intensely twisting, turning and epic, based on the controversial historical legend of the Knights Templars. This feels pretty weird. Unwrapping an almost 30-year-old boxed game, but I'm not a proper collector. I use my stuff. So here goes. Okay, no turning back now. And it obviously looks brand new, aside from some minor damage in the corner here, most likely caused by the shrink wrap. The box has started to deform on this side too, but I'm not complaining. This box is in awesome condition, so let's get inside. Well, the CD has been rattling around inside here. There is an envelope underneath the CD. Let's check out this stuff here. That's some pretty neat packaging. We're giving away Virgin Computer games every month, and all you have to do to qualify is to fill out this registration card. How many games have you purchased in the last 12 months? Oh, you guys don't want to know. And then we have a Mac installation card, optimized specifically for the PowerPC. So we've got the right machine. And then we have Virgin Limited Warranty. And apparently they offer support by fax machine. It's been a while since I had a fax. And inside here we have some troubleshooting. Not only for Mac apparently, for DOS too. And then of course the main instruction manual. So you can call for hints, but it will set you back 95 cents per minute. I'm obviously not going to read all of this, but if you're quick, you can get one of those copies they still have on eBay. Okay, this manual is actually for PC, so I guess that's why that card was included, for Mac specific stuff. It will run on a 486DX266, but a Pentium 60 is recommended. I have tried this game on a Pentium 60 and it ran perfectly. Instructions on the Windows 95, instructions on the DOS, cursor control overview. Well, it's a classic point and click, so you don't really need any instructions to play it. And finally, it has a beginner's tutorial. So really nice manual for sure. I can probably iron out this bulge here, but I'm not sure I will bother. Then we have the CD, of course, or CDs I should say. It was really well packed, so I don't expect any cracks in the case, as it so often is when you buy CDs on eBay. Everything is so shiny. Really does look brand new. So this is a 2 CD game. So there is unfortunately some CD swapping inside the game, but not frequently enough to be annoying. Yeah, the case is in good condition. No cracks at all. Awesome. Okay, let's get that CD in the tray. See if it actually works. By the way, there are a whole bunch of sequels to this game, and there is another one in the making. So I didn't actually read the manual, but I'm just gonna go for the installer. To install Circle of Blood, please copy Install Circle of Blood icon to your desktop. The fan controller unfortunately isn't very good in this Mac. Immediately after I had started the machine, it just went to full speed, then it just stayed at full speed. Okay, I'm gonna go for maximum installation with as much stuff as possible on that compact flash card. The PC installer actually has a mini game you can play here while you wait for the machine to install the game. But apparently not this version. That installer game ran really slow, so it was kind of hopeless to play. Okay, I think we're done. Insert CD1. Circle of Blood has been successfully installed. I just realized I have the brightness way too high, so let's crank it down. Yeah, that's much better. Application program Circle of Blood could not be opened because of an error type 39.
Alert. The application program Circle of Blood could not be opened.
Yeah, you heard it yourself. Well, I'll check and fix it. It's actually mentioned in the manual. Error type 39. The application file has been corrupted and must be reinstalled. Well, that kind of sucks. Okay, hours later, I managed to find the issue. And unfortunately, this is the third time I'm having the same problem with games. It's the crappy copy protection that has some weird compatibility issues with this machine. But I managed to find a solution. I'm not sure I should say publicly how I fixed this problem, but let's just say I don't need to have the CD in the drive anymore to play the game. You'll find a solution too with a quick Google if you need it. There are plenty of reviews and playthroughs on YouTube already, so I'm not going to repeat what has been said in other videos. I'm just gonna say it's an awesome game and you should try it if you like adventure games. Okay, so next, this display needs some minor adjustments, but unfortunately it requires a special software and a special cable. I have been asking around for it, but unfortunately no one seems to know how it's made. So that is gonna have to be for a future video. And that's it. That's all I had for you guys today, and I'll see you again next week.